Good morning. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get this going, I guess. Anyone's head hurt? You doing all right? Yes, on both counts, maybe? Okay. So. Okay. Is it making sense at least a little bit?
Kind of. I mean, it's just taking a long time to learn. It's taking me longer to learn than I anticipated, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, it'll
Yeah,
do
I think
that.
my brain is completely mush right now. So
Yeah.
it
Same.
it's gonna be a minute.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we'll keep molding it and it'll come to. So, and it is well, just like everything else, practice, and eventually be like you'll the twist in your brain is like you're used to thinking like a human, and now you have to think like a computer. And so eventually you'll be like, okay, I want to write this thing. Because right now you're like, I want to make this thing, but I have no idea. Like, do I need a function? Should I use a loop? Like what the heck should I do? So as you do it more and more, then you'll be like, okay, I want to do this thing, so I'm gonna need a function, a loop, blah, blah, blah. And your mind will kind of make that switch. But it definitely takes time for sure. So we're only on week 2, so it's okay. So, okay, cool. Any questions specific right now? No? Okay, cool. Let's look at maybe all over here. Our get over here. Look at our debug exercise. Okay. So in this function, what should this output? And how do you fix it? So it's not doing our, so let's put it in uh, our deal here. Let's see what it's doing. Dun, dun, dun. Get rid of that. Kill that. So whenever I don't think we've installed Node yet. We could probably do that today if we want to. It's a helpful way to just be able to run the JavaScript in your terminal instead of going to the browser each time, which is fine. You can do it that way. Um, but if you like just had a JS file, then you could do it this way too. So you can run it by doing node and then the file name. So index.js, index.js. And then you can see it's console logging working right here, like we see. And then it's giving us undefined in this result console log. So that's what we got to fix. So real quick, go to y'all's terminals, and it can be the one in VS Code or the one just on your machine, and just do node. Oh, that's not node. Node dash V, and see if it gives you a version. We'll see if you have it on there. I feel like we installed it, but I'm not. I don't remember.
Will you share your screen? I'm not sure exactly
Oh,
where to
I'm
look,
so
to be honest.
sorry. That would be helpful, wouldn't it? I'm just coding it up over here. Thank you. Yeah. Let me get over here. Do that. Okay. That's probably a little more helpful. Move this guy. Okay. So yeah, if you just do just in your terminal, to open your terminal, if you forgot, you can go to terminal at the top here and new terminal, or you can do uh on mine it's alt and then the tilde or the back tick and maybe control or something else. But you can, yeah, just go to terminal and click new terminal in VS Code or outside, either way. Yeah, then you can put in node dash V, and it should give you something if you have it. And I know, Elizabeth, you're on a Mac, right? Pretty sure. And then Laura, are you on a Mac? Okay, cool. Let me know if you do or do not have the version.
I think I have version 24.11.1
Okay,
apparently.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
You're just more advanced than me. One thing about versions, I will say, once you're like building software that you have to maintain, um, making sure that you and your team have the same version is pretty important because changes obviously come with new versions. Um, and then eventually you do have to upgrade your versions as things get older. So it it's part of the gig. Got to make sure it's all up to date. But for what we're doing, doesn't matter what version you have as long as you just have it. Um, you got it, Elizabeth?
Mine is coming up saying command not found node.
Okay, so you don't have it. So what you can do is just install it. I don't know what the easiest. Probably go to Node. Just Google Node, the E, and then I think you can just do. Let's see, just get Node, maybe get Node. Okay, yeah, just hit get Node, and it'll give you this curl command here, and you should be able just to run that in your terminal. You should be good to go. Yeah, just follow this little deal here.
Okay.
It'll be good. Um, curl, just in case y'all don't know, I don't know what it stands for. But it's a way to like hit a URL without like using your browser. So I use it a lot for testing endpoints. So if I'm building a server or something, you can use curl and then put in like your endpoint. So if it's at like brianrigsby.com/ Taco Bell, I don't know. You can like put that in here and then it'll hit it on the terminal instead of in your browser. So you can see kind of what's going through. There's another thing called Postman, which is a application, does the same thing, just uses it through the application instead of like through a curl. So just a little tidbit for you. All right. So while we're waiting on Elizabeth, if you want, Laura, you can do the just put this function in a JS file, and that's in well, here, I'll just paste it in the Slack for us. So yeah, put that in a JS file, and then you can run node and then the file name. So name it like index.js, and it should run the file in your terminal. This is kind of similar to how in the Python class you ran a Python script.
Is this something I put within the expense tracker thingy, or is this something separate?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, as long as you don't in the expense tracker, do you already have an index.js?
Yes.
Just name like index2.js,
Okay.
and then that'll be the name you'll run in your terminal.
Okay. I finally have it downloaded. It says v24.14.0.
Awesome. That'll work. Yep. So yeah, just go ahead and grab that code and throw it in a index2.js or whatever and try to run it in your terminal.
Okay. Okay, can you tell me which code I'm supposed to add to the terminal? Sorry, I was trying to get that to download and my brain
Oh,
was one
yeah,
track.
no, so in the Slack, I pasted a function.
Got it.
Yeah, just grab that and just make an index.2.js, put it in there. And this is not part of the expense tracker. This is just the debugging thing, just so we can show you all how to do it. It can be in there. Like you don't need to make a whole new thing for it. Just a
Okay,
new.
it's in my index 2,
Yep.
and I need to verify if there's problems.
Yep. So we're just going to run it. So just do node and then index2.js like I did here, except for index2.
It says undefined.
Perfect. Yep. That's what we want to see for now.
Okay, perfect.
Are you having trouble, Laura?
I am just let me try this.
You want to share your screen real quick and we can see what's going on?
Okay.
Let me unshare. Oop, am I sharing? Go away. All right. Okay.
Okay. Now, what do I need to be doing from at this point?
Yep. So go down to your terminal
Okay.
and just to put node, type node,
Node. Okay.
and then space index3.js. And that's the name of your file right there.
Okay.
So hit enter, hit enter. Okay. Can't find module index3. Why are you trying to find a module?
I had to install that.
You, you had to install what?
Node.js. I was having
Um,
the same problem. And I had to just Google Node.js and then install it and then it worked right away.
okay. Laura, you said you put node-v and it gave you a version though, right?
Yeah.
Let's do it again.
Okay.
And I can't see the bottom of your terminal for some reason.
Okay. All right. Node.
Uh, do you know dash V?
Okay.
It's given a version. That's weird.
Oh,
Okay, so yeah, it looks like you don't have it.
okay. Crap. All right.
It's weird that it was showing. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So go ahead and go to Node. Like like you said, go Google Node, and then I'll take back over the screen here.
Okay, okay.
Okay. And yeah, you'll see under download, you'll see this whole thing. Just put this curl command in your terminal and run it, and just follow these instructions, and it'll get you
Okay.
loaded up. Wait. So Wayne, you were able to get it to work? I don't know if you're talking or not, Wayne, but you're muted. Okay. Assume yes. So this is helpful whenever. So if you think about it, if you need to test a function or something, without this, like you got to go through the browser every single time. So if you if you have a long flow and like you need to test like one section of it, um, it's annoying to have to go back to the browser, like start in a form and put it all in there just to test like one little thing. So this is helpful for testing like your JavaScript straight in the terminal as opposed to going to the browser. And then obviously sometimes you'll have a script or something that has nothing to do with the browser. Um, and so you can test it this way too. Testing is obviously a big part of what we do. Derek, how many uh, tests do you write at your job?
Tests, probably not very many.
Yeah, you just wing it.
Yeah, they got us in a medium type of situation.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I actually just had to build a scraper though, and I built a lot of tests with that.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Something like if it is like on the website and you can click through and make sure everything is okay, then you won't do this as much. But yeah, like a scraper, because that's gonna just go through and pull a bunch of stuff off a website. You can build a bunch of stuff like this to be like, okay, if I get this thing, it's gonna do that thing and stuff like that. So it's good, good stuff. How's it coming, Laura?
Okay. So yeah, now it says undefined. So is
Good.
that right?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome. Sweet. So yeah, so it's undefined. So that's what we got to fix, right? So right now, what it's doing, we've defined the function, right? So we'll go over the syntax again real quick. So it's just function, the name of your function, which is add, and then any parameters you're taking in, which is AB, which is not very descriptive, but that's fine. Um, and then what's happening in the function is we're going to add A plus B, right? So in result, we are calling the function add, and then we're passing in 2 and 3. Um, so it's going in here, it's getting here, it's passing in A is 2 and then B is 3, and then it's adding them together, and then we log result, but we're not seeing anything, right? So that's the problem. So why are we getting undefined for result? Any thoughts?
I took notes. Hold on, I'm pulling them up right now.
Okay.
There wasn't a return statement.
Perfect. Yep. So it's doing what we told it to do, right? It is doing the addition, but it's just not sending it back to us. And so we need to add a return right before here, and then it's going to return the sum of that, right? So that's why we have this result variable, is to catch whatever is returned from our function. And so now if I run it, if we run it, oh, not node-v. So again, to run it, just node and then the name of the file, so index.js. Then we get 5, right? So yeah, that return keyword will jack you up if you're like, why is it not there? We could have also made another variable in here if this, because sometimes like you'll have something here that looks kind of funky. Maybe it's like you're using a method on a string or something. To me, sometimes it's more clear to say like, okay, we have a variable sum, and then we're gonna store this in sum, so sum equals, and then we'll return sum. So this is doing the same thing. We just have a variable in the function scope that we're saving it to, and then we're just returning that variable. More code. Obviously, this one's pretty simple. Probably didn't need to do that. But this is another way to do it if it makes more sense for whatever you're working on. So cool. Okay. Makes sense? Good on that. All right. Let's go to the next one. Over here. Okay, so this one, let me throw this. I'll throw this in the Slack too, so you all can throw it in your terminal and check it out. Or throw it in your code, rather. Okay. I'm just going to replace this function just to not be confused by it. Okay, what does this output? Why? How do we fix it? Uh-oh. My mouse just died. Okay. Let me go back here. Okay, I'm going to change my mouse battery real quick. Look at that and think about like what it should be and what it is. So first, if you just run your node again, then we're going to see it's at limit is what we're getting back.
Is that because of the single equal sign between spent and budget? That it would be at limit?
Okay, so we're passing in 50 and 100, right, in our get budget. And so 50, if 50 is greater than 100, we would get this guy, which we don't. If 50 single equals 100, we're at limit, and then else return under. So this should not be a single equals, right? Because that's assignment.
Right.
It should be
Right.
triple. So if we do that, but if we think about it, so 50, yeah, 50 is not less than, or is not equal to budget, but it was because of the assignment, yeah, it was bringing that one back. So it should be under, right? That's what we're thinking. Okay, so yep. Yeah, so this, interestingly enough, this is truthy, right? The assignment, which is weird. And so that's why it was coming back that way. So yep, having the triple equals makes it actually do the comparison, which then does bring us under. Yep. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna grab battery. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sweet. Okay. So if we wanted this to return over, what would we need to pass in here?
Spent would need to be like over 100.
Okay. So say like 150 and 100.
Yeah.
I will run that here and over. Perfect. Cool. When your terminal gets clogged up, you can run clear and it'll clear off everything. FYI. And then also, I don't know if we mentioned this, but if you push up, it'll take you back to your previous commands. So that's pretty helpful. And then down, same thing if you get up there. Nope. All right, cool. Let's see. Oh, we got 6 of these guys. Okay. Okay, let's see. Oh, arrow function. We're not messing with arrow function yet. Um, do that later. So this one's just falsy value. So 0 is falsy, if we remember that. So uh, so if we pass in, actually, there's a good one. Let's do this one. Oops. Okay, so in this one, if I run it, I get amount is required. So we're running our function validate amount and we're passing in a 0, the number 0. And so that's what amount becomes, right? So if not amount, so if this is false, right? So not 0, if 0 is false, then not 0 is true, right? And so because that's then true, it gives us amount is required. Does that make sense? So if we passed 1 in here instead, then we get valid because 1 is true. And so not true is false. Okay. So that's the weird falsy truthy things we talked about last time. They can definitely be a gotcha. And you got to think about them like that. Cool. Okay. All right. Any questions on any of that? All good. Okay. Let's just jump to the read the code real quick. If I can go over here. Okay. So a question on scope here. So what does inner return? Let me put this. Oh, let me throw this over here for you guys too. Sorry. If you want to put it in your code. Okay. So if we look at it, what does inner return here? This is a weird one. So they have a function within a function, which is fine. It's just it's inner scope, right? Trying to think if I don't know that I've had that much where I would need a function scoped within another function. I would probably just put it outside and then just call it in that function. But that's what they're doing here. So let's see. So this is running inner, right? So it's going to run this guy, which is going to have x equals 30, and it's going to return x. So inner here would be 30, right? Because that's what we're getting out of our inner here. And then plus x. So out here, that would be this x, right? So we're going to add 20. So this should return 50, right? And then when what we're logging is outer plus x, global x. Okay. I know that was a lot. So I think it should be 60 is what it should give us. Yeah. So let's break that up a little bit to make that make sense. Dun, dun. Okay. So we have our global scope is here, right? X equals 10. Okay. Our first function is outer. So this x equals 20. So this is why you should name your variables better, right? Because this is confusing. So let's do this. This is going to be global x. Okay. Global x. Oops. And this will be outer x, and then this will be inner x. Okay. So let's return that. And that. And that. Okay. So now we can see that what is being called down here or invoked is our outer function. So we go to our outer function and we see, okay, we've got this variable 20 here. And then we're defining a function within there. So this is only available inside this outer function. And then we are returning, we're going to call the inner function and add this outer x to whatever returns from there, right? So when we call this, we're going to declare this inner x variable of 30, return that to here where it's called, and then add that outer x to that, which is what we get back from here, to then add to this global one. Okay. That's confusing, right? But you'll get, like, especially when you start, if you're working with some algorithms and things, like this is kind of the stuff you'll have to get your brain to kind of wrap around. The easiest way for me, that I think for me, is to get my way inside, right? Because it's going to go from the inside out. And so if I'm just thinking like on the console log here, if I'm like, okay, I need to know global X, I don't really need to know this right now. I need to dig into this and drill down into outer and see if outer has a function that it's calling, and so on and so on, and then bubble my way back up. When we would whiteboard these in boot camp, like I would basically make a table and it'd be like, okay, I know I'm calling this function. Okay, this is going to happen. It's going to come back to this guy, and then so on. So like writing it out made it super helpful. So, yeah, and this is again just practice and digging in there and everything else. Excuse me. Questions on that? Good. Okay. Okay, cool. All right. What do we got? Okay, let's just jump into our code and get coding on this. If y'all did have any other questions on there, feel free to ask or throw it in the chat on any of these guys. If not, we shall move on. Okay. What am I? Okay, I don't want you anymore. Okay. So last time, let me see if I have my right deal up here. Week one. Let me change this. Already showing this. Okay. Forget about the form on the left for a second. We're gonna build that. But basically last time we had our table, right? And we looked at how let me pull up that. Is it this one? Okay. So this is obviously not the whole thing, but pretty much we had made the index, made out the table with all of our IDs and things so that we could grab those elements and then replace the data or the strings or whatever with what was in our objects, right? Like that was basically the gist of what we did. So this time we are going to make a form like this, and we are going to be able to add expenses to our table dynamically. Okay. Because obviously going in and hard coding those is not going to work whenever someone's actually using the application. So some of the things we're going to go over arrays, loops, and what else is on my list? Events are a big deal, and forms. All right. So let's do it. For the expense tracker form here, I'll just paste this into into Slack for us. This is just Bootstrap, so nothing crazy going on here. So I'll go ahead and do that right now. I'll just paste the entire HTML so y'all can grab it. Let me make sure this is the right one. Yeah, okay. Okay, so yeah, grab that and just replace your index.html with that code. And then you should see this this deal right here. Once y'all get that pasted, we'll walk through it just for review.
So we just completely delete everything that we had in the HTML, make it blank, and then replace it with this.
Yep.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it was
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah, good. Oh, wow. I didn't know I could draw on this. That's cool. Okay. Undo. Okay. Go away. Just let me know when y'all are seeing the same thing on your page. Ooh. Rocket ships. Very nice. All right, cool. So we'll walk through that real quick here. So yeah, just basic HTML with our Bootstrap. We brought our Bootstrap in just like we have been doing. We're using some, padding and things. So that's all just bootstrappy stuff. And then this is probably new. So we have a select drop down. Obviously, select and options, that's just HTML, but we did add some Bootstrap class to it to make it look better. So that's this guy, a little drop down here. And then we have a button, of course. Uh, so we won't do it today, but you can also dynamically produce your drop-down lists from your JavaScript. So if you eventually you'd be pulling from a database, so if like all your food values and everything are in your database, then you can just update your database if you have a new food value, and you don't have to come update your code, which is the goal. So you wouldn't have like all these options. You would just have like one that you would then replace with a list of options. So just an FYI for the future. Cool. So we have a button. You might notice this is inside a form right here. So this is the actual form, and the button has type submit. So when a button has type submit inside of a form, that means when you click the button, it's going to trigger the form to submit. Yeah. You could have an on click on a button if like say you weren't using a form itself, you were just using a bunch of divs or something. You could have a different event here, a different sorry, it wouldn't be a type, it'd be an on click like this, on click. So that'd be an event that then you could grab on your JavaScript side to say, okay, if this on click event occurs, run this function. So, but inside a form, which is how it's meant to be, you can have a button with type submit. So you'll see both, just depending on what you're trying to do. Cool. So then in our table, so this guy over here on the right, we now have just regular table like we had before. The only difference is in the table body here, we don't have all those different expenses listed because we're going to populate them dynamically. We just have one table data that just says no expenses yet. And so we're going to end up replacing this, really replacing the text row text data with the items as they're added. That's what we're going to do. Okay. And then at the bottom, we have our script for our Bootstrap and then our index.js script. If your script is not named index.js, make sure this matches whatever yours is named. So typically it's index.js or script.js or app.js, something like that. So go ahead in your index.js and delete what's in there and just do a like console.log working. And then do your live server or five server, whichever you're using. And then if you look at your console, you should see working just to make sure it is connected. I'll be right back. Is everyone's working? Laura and Wayne, are y'all good?
Yeah, I accidentally was doing stuff in the wrong, so I'm like redoing now.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I should be good though.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, I don't understand where you said to do this.
Okay. Let's see. So you have your index.js, right?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have the console log in it?
Okay, so we were supposed to delete everything that's in that as well.
Um,
Or
oh yeah, you're working on your do so do like I did here, do like a week 1.js
okay,
and copy everything that's in your index over to that.
okay.
Just so you won't lose that. So if you want to look back on it.
So everything that I originally had in the index.js, I now put it in week1.js.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then your index.js should be clear and you can just put the console log in it.
gotcha. Okay.
And we're not going to use that week 1. That's just for you to look back on if you needed it. So Elizabeth and Wayne, you didn't have to do that if you didn't want to. If you just replaced it, however you did, it's fine. And this is kind of how software goes. Like you'll make something and then it'll be time to add another feature or refactor or something. And so you'll be scared to touch that thing that's working. And so maybe you'll make a new file that's copied with everything that you have before, or you're just cutting it all and kind of building upon or whatever. So definitely where version control comes in with GitHub. We would like if this was a real project, we would have you know a different branch for this, which I guess we could have done, but we'll do that when we get to module 3.
Okay, and then how do you test that that's working?
Yep. So on your HTML, do either your Five or Live server, whichever one you're using. However you typically open it up in the browser.
Okay.
And so then you should see this, and then just open your tools, your dev tools. Got it?
Yes, got it.
Sweet.
Thank you.
All right. Cool. Okay, so now we know we're connected, which is awesome. So we shouldn't need the HTML very much anymore, so we'll just stick to our JavaScript now. And you can leave the console or get rid of it, doesn't matter, it's not gonna hurt anything. So first, let's like kind of pseudocode, think about like what we're doing, right? So what we want to happen is we want people to be able to enter their expenses, and then when they hit add, we want it to add it over here, right? Like to the table. That's the whole point. So we're going to need something to hold hold those expenses, right? Like a list of expenses in our code. So that's where an array is going to come in. So at the top of our index.js, we're going to make an array. We're just going to call it expenses. And it's just going to be an empty array. Okay, so just two square brackets. And so this is global, right? It's not inside any scope, which is good because we're going to need to, everything we're going to do is going to be to these expenses, right? Add them or delete them or add it, whatever we're going to do. And so you can kind of think about this as like our little database, quote unquote. Like this is the data that we're going to be displaying in that list. So that's just our initial array, which obviously is not going to do anything right now. That's okay. So that's going to store everything that goes in this box. So the next thing we got to think about is our form. When we actually put something in here, we're going to need to see that on in our JavaScript, so that way we can put it in our array. So when the form gets submitted, that's an event. Okay. So there's a bunch of different events that can occur in JavaScript, like an on click, an on load. Typically, they'll start with an on something, um, on change, on border, like a bunch of different things. What we're concerned about right now is the submit event from the form. So, hit the wrong button. What we can do in our JavaScript is we can listen for events. And so what that looks like is, let me see, let me get my notes over here. So I'm going to put some notes in here just so we know. So this is our all expenses go in this array. Okay. So what we need is we need an event. We need to listen for form submission event. Okay. So the first thing we're gonna have to do is we need to get access to that form, just like we did with the different elements from last week. So let's look at our form here, and we can see that it has an ID of expense form. So that's how we're going to access our form, right? So just like we would do before, we're just going to make a variable to hold our form element. We're going to call it form. And then we're going to do document, right? So we can get something from the DOM. And then we had been using get element by ID. We're going to use a different one this time called query selector. Okay. So query selector is similar to document.getElement by ID, but it returns the first element that is a descendant of node that matches selectors. That sounds very confusing. So what does that mean in English? It's basically you can use it for any type of selector. So it's like you can use it for an ID. I think you can use it for like divs or whatever else. Yeah, so we're going to put our ID in here. So expense form. Okay. So this should get us that form element, right? So we can console log that and see what it looks like. Form. So this is going to be my form element. Okay. Okay, I was just asking Claude to make sure I was correct on the query selector. And yeah, does the exact same thing as get element by ID or get elements by classes. Any of those get element, whatever. You can just use any of those in here. So you could use a div, you could use an ID, you could use a class, whatever you wanted to use. So it's just kind of a, I guess a more of a general one that you can use on all of them. Doesn't say there's really any benefit. You just don't have to remember 6 different ones. So cool. Okay, so once we have this, then we should be able to go back to our page and see our form element get logged right there. Right, so this is the giant actual element with everything we could possibly do or get from the element. Okay, and we're doing this just to verify that we are actually getting that element. There's nothing we really need to do with that. Just see it. Cool. Yeah. All right, cool. So now that we are getting that element, now we actually need to listen to the event on the form. Okay. So I'm gonna get rid of this console log because it's just gonna cloud us up. So we don't need it anymore. So to listen for an event, there is a method called add event listener. Okay. So it's on our form element, right? So we're going to use that and then use this method add event listener on it. And the event listener that we're listening for is submit. Let's see if it'll, I think if we click this MDN reference, should give us a list of events. Options. So MDM is dense. There's like a lot of information here. It's very good, but it's very dense. So maybe just ask your favorite AI buddy, like what all events there are that you could put in here, if you're wondering. In our case, we just listed for the submit event. So this is gonna maybe throw you for a loop. But within this event listener, so within this method or this function, we're gonna call another function. And then we're gonna call it inline. And this is called a callback, I think. So what it's going to look like is this. And we're going to put event here. Okay. So what this is going to do is it's going to listen for this event. And if it hears this event, it's then going to trigger this function inside of it. Okay. And we're going to write out this function in a second. But for now, let's just console log the event. Okay, so just to go over that again, we are put a line here so we have that form element and we're using a method on it, which is this whole thing, add event listener, which is going to listen for submit. Once it hears submit, it's then going to trigger the function inside of it to do whatever we're about to tell it to do. Okay. So if we go to our form tracker, when we hit add expense, well, we have validations, so it's not going to let us do that. These validations, by the way, we did not make. These are what come with the inputs. Okay. So if you look at our HTML real quick, like there's nothing written here, right, that says, hey, you should like have these validations come up. It just, this is what comes within the form inputs that are built into HTML. We have this required flag. This is the only thing that we're really adding to make those validations pop up. So I think we build a lot of really complicated stuff whenever there's built-in stuff that could already help us out. Like I know when I very first was building a form, I would try to build out these validations like, hey, check for blank spaces, check for this and that, when all I really had to do was put this word here and it would do that for me. So just know that there might already be a solution to a problem you have. Just check it out. So We'll put something here. We'll put tacos. Put 1.22. Cool. Oh, okay. So you may have seen something happen really fast there, right? When we put it in and we hit add expense, you may have noticed the page refreshed, right? Really quickly in our console, you saw our console log, but it refreshed very quickly, so we couldn't see it. So look, like watch right here. See it? It was there and gone. So that is one thing with forms that we have to do whenever we're listening to an event is we have to stop it from refreshing. Because if you can imagine, if somebody went to put their expense in and then it refreshed, their expense is gone, right? It's not being saved anywhere. Um, and so anytime you're listening for a form event, the first thing you'll do at the top is you'll do event dot prevent default. And this is how we prevent that refresh from happening. Okay. And so event is coming from here from our function. A lot of times you'll see this just as E instead of event. And then prevent default is what stops it from refreshing. The history behind that, in case you're interested, is in the beginning of the internet, whenever you would submit a form, it would send it off and do its thing and it would refresh the page. Like that's how the functionality of forms was created because there was no like internal saving or anything like that. And that was just kind of how the internet worked, right? You went, you did your thing, it refreshed, blah, blah, you're good to go. Nowadays, like the last 20 years, we don't want it to refresh because it's a very abrupt change that we don't like as humans. And we want to typically like keep going. Like we didn't just do the form and then we're done and we can leave the page. So instead of changing the form's behavior, we've just added this prevent default to change the behavior. Hope that makes sense. So now if we go back and we put our stuff in here and we add, it didn't refresh, right? Which is good because we didn't want it to refresh. And so now we can see that we actually have this event. None of this really means anything to us. It's just showing you that the event actually did occur. And you can see that it is on that ID of expense form right there. Cool. Everyone tracking so far?
Actually, what did you just do? My Zoom was messing up. I had to restart it.
No worries. So wait, did you get the event prevent default?
That
Oh, I think
is that in the console? No, I didn't do it.
okay. Did you hear me talking about it and what its point is?
A little bit, but it was kind of freezing for me, so I just
Okay. No worries. Yeah. So
stopped the
forms,
refresh, right?
yeah, they automatically make the page refresh, and we wanted to stop doing that. That's what event.prevent default does. So that way our everything we just did doesn't disappear off our page.
Okay, maybe I see what I need to.
Cool. Yeah, once you have that, whenever you put your stuff in and you hit add expense, it should just see the event in your console and it should not refresh.
Okay, mine is not doing anything whenever I click the add expense. Like it just sits there.
Okay. You want to share your screen?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, there it is.
All right. So when I try and click the button, it doesn't Doesn't do anything.
Okay.
So
Open your
code.
console.
Okay. Oops, sorry.
You're good. Oh, are you running it within VS Code?
Yes.
Yeah, don't do that. You need to open it in your browser.
Okay. All right. So here it is. Here it is within my
Oh,
browser.
okay. Okay. Yeah, show your dev tools.
Okay.
Do inspect element, not page source.
Okay.
Well, get rid of this guy. X out of this.
Okay. Let me just get out of this entirely.
Yep. Yeah, right here.
Inspect.
And then go to console.
Oh,
Yeah, there it is.
okay. All right. Never mind.
You're good.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you want, you can put this on the side of your screen so you can kind of have it hanging out.
Okay. All right,
Um,
we'll do
do you know how to do that?
Sure. No, let me unshare. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So let me put it down at the bottom like you had it. These three dots here on the right, you click
Mm-hmm.
that, and then on the dock side, you can have it like up to the right, or you can like have it as a whole new window or whatever. Typically, I just keep it to the right, so it's right here, so I can see it. And you can drag it and make it bigger and littler.
On the dock side. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Got it? Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Okay, cool. So our event is working and we're logging it. So now we got to think about what do we want to do, what we want that event to do, right? So we want it to send us the data so we can then eventually add it to our expenses. So I'm going to delete this. I'm just going to add a note here. Prevents page refresh. Okay. Okay, so we're going to need to get that description, amount, and category from our form, right? And so the way we're going to do that is the exact same way we did it last week. We're just going to look at our description. We have what does it say? Hold on. Sorry, just a second. Let me see what I did there. Oh, dot value. Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry. So we have this ID of description for our input here. So we can grab that just like we did last week. We'll just make us a variable. I'm going to call it const description. I'm using const because once I get the description, I'm not going to change it, right? It's what the user sent to me, so I don't need it to be a let. And I'm going to set that to document, right? Because we're getting something off the DOM. And we could do query selector, we could do get element by ID. Either way is fine. I'll just stick with query selector since that's what we use there. And then we'll use that ID that we had, which was right here, description, right? So description. And I'm gonna go ahead and just console log these as we go so we can see them. The description. So this will be description. Okay. And then we're gonna do the exact same thing for amount. So const amount document get query selector. Oh, not get, just query selector. And this one is down here under amount. ID is amount. Okay. Amount. And we'll console log that guy. Amount. And then category. Selector. I'm betting it's category. Let's double check. ID category right there. Cool. Hmm, category. Okay. I'll give you all a minute or so to write all that out. I'll be right back. Okay. All right. Y'all got that? Pretty good. Okay. Cool. So once you have that, then you should see whenever you try to submit something, you're going to get, so we're actually getting the elements, right? Which really doesn't do us a lot of good because you can't add an element, right? So we're on the right path, but what we need to get is the actual values that are being sent. So to do that, all we got to do is just add value. So on document.querySelector, we're going to do dot value on the ends. Right. So that's going to get us the actual value that's being passed in those input elements. Yeah. So once you have the values in there, then we should see the values. So there we go. We have description or path, amount 1.22, and then category food. So we're getting the actual values now that we need to put in our expenses. Okay. Cool. All right. Now, this is a good time to validate what we're getting because obviously we're going to want to make sure that description is a string. It's not malicious, and that amount is a number and things like that. So we can do, I'm going to make a new section down at the bottom here that's going to be called helper functions. So I'm just going to say helper functions. Okay. And I'm going to want to write a validate function, right? So we can validate what's coming into our form. So I'm just going to say validate. I'm just going to put validation. Okay. So let's make a function. We'll just call, say, function validate expenses. Okay, actually put this way. Okay, so this is we're gonna send in the description, the amount, and the category, right? Because we want to validate those. So let's do description. Whoa, not that. Description, amount, category. So those will be the parameters that we're going to pass into this function. So now we got to think, okay, what do we want to validate for each one? So for the description, we're going to want to make sure it's not blank, right? Like we need some data in there. So we're going to use some conditionals. So we'll say if description, so we're going to make sure first if it exists at all. So we'll say if not description, right? So if it does not exist, then we want to tell them, hey, this thing needs to exist. So we're going to return a string, and we're just going to say description is required. Okay. We'll run, no, we're not yet. We're going to finish the rest of it. Okay. So if it's not there at all, if it doesn't exist, then we want to return that. Some other things to think about is what if they just, and this is where you got to like get your 8-year-old to try to break your app. Like what other weird things could a user do, right? They could put just a bunch of spaces, right? And that's not helpful. Like we can't do anything with that. So for that, if you remember, we have a built-in string method called trim, which takes off all the space from the front and the back. So we could do or description dot trim equals an empty string. So this we're saying, okay, if they put in a bunch of blank spaces, we're going to take all the blank spaces away. If what we're left with is an empty string, then we need to say, hey, no, you got to put something in there, right? Does that make sense? Cool. Okay. That's probably fine for now. We could, not to get too deep into something, but there's the thing called SQL injection that a lot of hackers will do to try to put SQL code into your inputs and actually like run code on your code to break it or to steal stuff. Down the line, we'll want to include some of that stuff. But for now, I think this is fine. Okay, so that's probably good for description. So let's think about amount. So let's do another if for amount. So if there is no amount, like it's null, undefined or whatever, then we want to probably send something back. So we'll say if no amount, or if amount is false, and then we can return same thing, amount. So we'll say amount must be greater than 0. Okay. And that means we probably need one to check if amount is less than 0. So we'll do amount is less than or equal to 0. because we don't want them putting expenses in that are either negative or at zero, right? That's probably good for amount for now. Since it is uh, a number field, it's not going to let us type letters in there at all, so we don't really need to validate for that. You definitely could, but you don't necessarily have to, because you'll notice that like I can't put any letters except for E, because E is technically a scientific notation or whatever it's called. But regular letters, no. So that's fine for that. Okay, and then finally, let's check the category. And so for the category, since it's a drop-down field, or a select field, we can't type into it. So it's never going to be blank, right? At least it's initially going to be food, could be one of the other ones. So really we just need to make sure it exists. So we'll just do if not category, which it shouldn't ever be that, but there's probably edge cases where it could occur. So let's return category is required. Okay. And then we'll have a final return at the end here, just saying it's valid, because at this point it would be valid. And so you'll notice this final return is outside of all these ifs. And so if any of these ifs do get triggered, they're going to return what's inside of them. So it'll never go any further down, right? Because remember, a return breaks out of the function right where that return is. So this valid will be returned if we pass all of these. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. This is very simple validations. There are obviously a ton more that can be done. There's whole libraries just for validations. So this is just a taste. All right, cool. And then also we talked about that on the inputs themselves, they have their own validations like required. This one, min, means that it can't be below 0.01. So it's not going to let us put in just zero anyway. So a lot of that will probably be caught here in the HTML. But we can give it a try and see if we can break it. So if we just put in a bunch of blanks, then we see, why didn't that do it? Okay. Oh, so it didn't submit it yet. So let's put in just one here. Why did our validations not do anything? Oh, I'll let you answer. Why? So why did this not get triggered?
I don't know if this is it or not, but there's a missing semicolon after that middle return. I don't know if that has to do with it.
Oh, yeah, no, that was just me being sloppy. So we're not actually,
Is it,
oh, good.
sorry, is it supposed to have after the description dot trim the brackets like to signify the value?
Like this?
No, it would be a second set of just the rounded brackets, but it's before the three equals.
Oh, like this.
Yes.
That is, it does need that, yes, but that's not why it's not being called.
Okay.
But that's a good catch. It's not being called because I haven't called it. That's why. So I defined the function, right? But I never actually called it to be used anywhere. So we need to take it and actually call it after our deal here. Over there. So we're going to call the function here, right? And we have three parameters that are required to be passed to it. So we need to pass in our description, our amount, Nope. In our category. And so like I had said the other day, you'll write a really nice function and then you'll forget to call it, and then you'll be like, why isn't anything working? So you got to make sure you actually call the function that you made. So now in our event listener, after we submit, that should be triggered. Okay. So let's go back over here and I give it a refresh. So now we'll put in tacos 1 point. Oh wait, let me put in blanks here. And then 1.0. And why did our trim not work? Let's see why it's not being triggered. Okay, I'm just going to add a console log to see what's going on with it. Side. Validate. Okay, so we're getting inside of it, but it's not on the trim. It's not calling that, what you call it there? It's because we should be getting in this if, right? So if description.trim equals an empty array. So let's just console log description.trim and see what that looks like. This is debugging for you right now, what we're doing. Okay, so a bunch of blanks. Okay, so it's not nothing, right? Let's see if so it's definitely got all the blank spaces, and it is trimming it. Interesting. Let's see. I don't know why it's not calling that. Let's ask old Claude. It's not getting in. Ah, okay. So it's actually because of the first if. Um, I don't know if that makes sense. It's so Claude is saying because it's empty, so it's an empty string, it's hitting this first one, so it's not getting to the trim. So I think let's take this away just for a second to see if it gets to there this time. Empty. No, we're still not getting there. But it's not returning that. Oh, maybe it is returning. Hold on, let's see. Okay, I wasn't console logging it. That's why. So, um, yeah, so I added console log around the validate. So now it actually console logs the return value. So it was getting here. I just wasn't actually saying, hey, put this on the screen so we could see it, put it in the console. So there you go. 101, gotta put it on there. Okay, made that way more confusing than it needed to be. Does that make sense? Did I lose y'all? That's okay. Okay. Cool. Okay, so our validate is working. We saw that if we do pass a blank or a string with just a bunch of blanks, then it's going to trim it and see if it um, is an empty string. If so, it's going to return description is required. And then so on. So if we were able to put less money, which I don't think it'll let us go below. Oh, that's not going to work. 0. Let's see if it'll let us put 0. Okay. Oh, so you see that the input validation caught that and wouldn't let me even put that in there. So that's good. Okay, cool. So we got validations. They're working. Wonderful. Cool. So let's move on from that. So now that we have it validated and we have let me get back up here in my notes. Okay. So it's validated. So now that it's good to go, we know that we're getting good data. Now we need to actually add it to our list, right? To our expense list. So back in our same function, so we're still in this this function here. We're going to need right here. We're going to need to add expense to, or let's say add data to expense, data to expense. And this was obviously to validate expense. Okay. So if you remember last time, our expense is an object, right? So inside of this expense array, we're going to have a bunch of objects. And they're going to look like, let me do, it's going to be our description, taco, our amount, 125, and our category, which will be food. So this is what our basic object is going to look like. One thing we need to add is an ID. And this, when we're doing messing with databases, this will be very important because each row in a database has an ID. So it's a good idea to go ahead and add an ID, and that way we can also reference the each object by its individual ID, right? So we'll just put 1 here for now. So this is an example of what the object's going to look like that we're going to put in this array. Okay. So I'll let y'all copy that if you want real quick. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. All right, you'll get on that.
Yep.
Cool. Cool. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to take this data, right, that we're bringing in from the form, and we need to build this object. So then we can add it to um, this array. So we're gonna need to add or create a new function, right? It's gonna be our add expense function. So I'm gonna put it down here under my helper function, just below the validation one is fine. And we'll just say this is gonna be our add expense. We'll say build expense object and add to expenses array. Okay, so this will be a function, of course. Function. We'll just call it add expense. And it will take in the three things we need, our description, our amount, and our category. And I'm going to add a console log. I'm going to do it a little bit different this time. I'm going to say incoming expense. Yep. Description. Actually, let me do this. Description, amount, category. So I just did it using backticks this time, so I could just put them right in line, so it'll look cleaner in the console log. And I'll just throw this into Slack so y'all can grab it if you want. Okay, so once we have the function, we need to use it, right? So we won't forget. So we can go back up to our main listener here, and we can do add expense, and then just pass in our three things, right? Description, amount, and category. And you can also notice that if you hover over expense or hover over the function, VS Code helps us out by kind of telling us what goes in there based on what we put in there. So with the function that you didn't write and you're like taking over the code or whatever, VS Code will try to help you out on like what needs to go where. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but order does matter. So if you were to put like amount and then description or whatever, like you passed it in a different order, it's going to matter based on what is expecting to take in here. So make sure that the order is correct. Okay. Cool. So once we have it up here, then we can go ahead and go and test it. So we'll go back to our expense tracker, give it a little refresh maybe, and then I'll put taco. I'll put it $1.22, and that's a food, add expense. So here's our console log. So our description's taco, amount's 122, category food. Cool. So we are getting that in our add expense function. Okay. Everybody seeing that?
Can you go back to your code for just a second?
Yep. Cool. We're good? Click. Okay. Cool. So yeah, so we're seeing it in here, which is good. So now we just need to actually add that expense to our array, right? So let's make some room here. And look at my okay. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and create our object. So we'll just say const expense. And this is going to be an object like that. And then we're going to put our data in there. So we'll have our key of description, which will be description. So this is the key right on the left, and then description is what's being brought in to the function, right? So description, these two match. And then same with amount. So comma, amount, and same with category. Okay. And then we can console log that as well. Console log. I'm going to just say created expense. Once you get that, then in your console, whenever you put a thing in, you should see that created expense object in there, like that. Okay, and I'll go back to the code so y'all can see that there. Give me a thumbs up when you got that, please. Okay. All right, cool. We are missing one thing from our expense. If you remember up top here, we were adding an ID to our expense. So what we're going to do for that is we're going to add a little variable above the expense for our ID. Put a little room here. So we're going to say we're going to have last ID. And this is because our IDs need to be unique for each one of our expenses. And so this is going to check the previous expense and see what its ID was, and then add one to it, basically, is what it's doing. So it's just looking at our expenses, our array, right? And the length of it, and seeing if it's greater than 0. If it is greater than 0, then it's going to I got to explain arrays to you before this makes sense. But it's going to add one, which we'll do in a second. If it is not greater than 0, meaning this is the first item, it's going to make the last ID here 0. Okay. For this to make sense, let me just do a little example here. Okay, so if we had an array is just a list of things, right? It can be anything. It could be a string, it could be a number, it could be another array, it could be an object, it could be anything. Boolean. So in this case, in order to access the elements of the array, we have to use their index position, right? So it starts at index 0, and so it goes 0, 1, 2, so on. So in order to get to get 1 from this expenses array, we would do expenses, so the name of the array, and then at position 0. Okay. This is similar to strings. We went over this a little bit with strings. So this would give us 1, right? Like that's what this equals. Okay. So if we were to do expense at position 1, then it's going to be 2, right? Because that's what's at position 1 in the array. Right? And then so on at position 2, so 0, 1, 2 is going to be 3. Okay. And it maybe numbers are kind of confusing. We could use strings. We could say taco, burger, shrimp. So now at position 2, so 0, 1, 2, so this would be shrimp. Shrimp. Ramp. There we go. And then so on, if this was position 1, so it'd be 0, 1, this would be burger. Okay. Make sense? Okay, so what this is saying is we want to get something from the expenses array. Whoa, so expenses array, right? And we want to get it at expenses.length minus 1. Okay. So this is a way for you to get the last item of an array. So the length of an array, so this array expenses, so if I do expenses.length, right? Expenses.length. This is going to equal 3, right? Because there's 3 items in the array. So this gets confusing because we would say we start at the index of 0. So the last item of the array is at index 2 in this case, even though the length is 3. Okay. So three items, but the last item is going to be at whatever length is minus one, right? Because 3 minus 1 would be 2. This is at position 2, right? Because 0, 1, 2. Make sense? Cool. Okay. So that's what this is doing here. It is saying, give me the length of the array, so 3, and then take 1 away from it. And that's the position I want to look at. Okay. So that's going to be, in this case, shrimp. Okay. Now, if we look at our actual objects, so let me grab this and bring it down there. So if our array, if this is at position 2 of our array, this whole thing, right? So we're looking at that position, so the in position in this case, and then we want to find the ID that's in it. So the ID. Okay. And so what we're saying is give me the ID of the last positioned object. Okay. So no, that sounds funky. So if our expenses, if we had an array and we had a couple of different objects in it, do this like this. Da-da-da. Okay, so if this is our array, then this is position 1 or position 0, sorry, right? Position 1, position 2, or index 0, index 1, index 2. So up here, we're saying, okay, let's get expenses at expenses dot length minus 1, so the last one in the array. So we'd come down here and look at this guy, and then we want to get the ID out of it, right? So we're going to get the ID, so we're going to have, this would be like 2, 3. So we would get 3, right? So that's what we're going to store in last ID is the number 3. Okay. Clear as mud, hopefully. Okay, cool. So all that is so we can get the last ID. So then in our actual expenses, we are going to put the next ID. So when we're putting that expense in there, so let me move all this. Okay. So when we add this ID in here, it's going to be the last ID plus 1, right? Because now we have the last ID in the expenses array. So let's say it's 3. So this is going to be the 4th expense that we put in. So we're going to have an ID of 4. So last ID being 3 plus 1, 4. And that's a very common thing you'll see just to get that end value in the array is the expense dot length minus 1 kind of thing. That was quite a bit. Is it making sense? Good. Okay. Cool. Luckily, in a database, normally your IDs are an alphanumeric random thing. So you don't have to continuously like add the next digit. You would just create the database would create a unique ID basically. But there are plenty of times when you need a list or whatever, and you need to add to the end of it, that you'll need to do something similar to this. So this is a common pattern. Cool. Okay. The last thing we do need our date, right? Because I think we have date on our table. Yeah. date. Okay. So after category, we're going to add our date. Since they're adding the expense right now, it's just going to be right now. So we can do our new date like we did last time. And then we're going to want to format this like we did last time. So we had a format date function. Let's see if I still have it. Yep. So this is the same one that we had before. So I'm going to put, let's see, I'm gonna put it down here. Wait, what's my function? I need to indent all this stuff. Okay. Okay. So this is the same date function we had last time. I'll throw it in the Slack in case you don't have it. I'm just gonna put format date. Okay, it's in the Slack. And so new date, we can just do date formatting on it. And that should format that date how we want it, hopefully.
A second, I didn't have date for.
Okay. No worries. Yeah, I threw it in Slack so you can grab it up.
Hey, Brian.
Yep.
Is this supposed to be putting it into the expense box, or is it just in the console that we're supposed to be seeing this?
Just in the console right now.
Okay, just making sure.
Yep. All good. Cool. So that should be our whole expense object. So if we go back here, let's add this again and see. Cool. So this is what our object will look like, which has everything we need. We got date, description, category, amount, and ID. Cool. So that should give us what we need to now put into that array so we can then display that in our table. So that's the next step, is actually pushing it into our array, which it has okay. Which if you remember, we have this array up top, our global expenses array. So we can just do expenses dot push, and we're going to push in our expense. Okay. On an array, there's a bunch of different built-in methods. One being push. Push just puts whatever you're pushing in there to the last spot of the array. In this case, we're pushing in an actual object. You could push in a string, a Boolean. Again, an array can have anything within it. There's several others. There's pop, which pop expense.pop will take off the last element of the array. It'll just take it off there. There's shift and unshift, which shift is the same as push, but it does it on the front of the array. Unshift removes the item on the front of the array. There's a lot you can manipulate. You can use split. Basically, anything you could use on a string, you can use on an array. Just depending on what you need to do to that array. In our case, we're just putting stuff on it right now. So push should be fine. So now we can console log our expenses and see, should be able to actually see our array. So I'm going to put expenses array. Okay, so now if we go to our browser and we add an expense again, then we can see here we have this expenses array that's an actual array and it has our object within it. It has ID of 1. If we add another one, you notice that our form does not clear anymore because it doesn't refresh. So that's something we're going to have to handle. But for now, if I do burrito, and we'll say 250 and add, now our expenses array has 2 objects in it. So we have our taco and we have our burrito. ID of 1, ID of 2. So that's exactly what we want it to happen, right? Cool.
Brian, my date is reading differently than yours using the code that you had entered in Slack.
Okay. So you have the same function?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have new date?
Yes.
Interesting. What's it look like?
Mine actually did not say date format. So if
Oh.
you'll go back to your, yep, that's where it's wrong.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Cool. So is everyone seeing the array in their oh, go ahead, Laura.
Sorry, I'm not seeing anything at all in mine.
Your console?
Yeah.
Okay. Or did you actually put it in? Like do the form?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing. Your console's completely blank?
Yeah, let me try one more time
Okay.
just to be sure that I'm not. Oh, actually. Okay, I'm actually getting some errors for some reason.
Okay. You want to share?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, so it's your array is expenses, not expense.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
So on your push there.
On my push. Oh, okay. Oh, so I do that. Okay.
So it says expense.push on line 67.
Uh-huh.
It should be expenses.
Expenses. Okay.
There you go. So it's helping out.
Okay. And so this should be expenses array and then expenses here.
Yep.
Is that right? Okay. Okey-dokey. Thank you.
Hmm? Yeah, typos and misspellings will definitely get you for sure. And just to clarify, to make sure we're on the same page here, this expenses, the plural, is our expenses array from the top up here. Okay. The expense, singular, is the object that we're putting into that array. Cool. Is it showing now, Laura? Awesome. All right. So now, let me see. We need to put, I don't know what returns then. Okay, so we are populating our expenses array, and we added the expense, which was the point of this guy. So now we need to actually display it on our page, right? So we're going to need a new function for that. And before we get into that, let's take a break. It's like 12:06. So yeah, let's come back 12:20 and then we'll get it displayed on the page. Cool. All right. All right, y'all ready? Okay, let's review what we've done so far so we don't get lost. So first thing we were doing is we were listening for that form event, right? So when we hit that add button, because the button had type submit on it and was within a form, it's going to trigger that submit event, right? So we got that. We prevented the default reloading, so that way we can stay on our page and keep the data there. We then grabbed the data we needed from each of the different input fields by using the same kind of query selector thing we were doing before, just adding the dot value on so we could actually get the value that was input into the forms. Then we validated the expenses with our validate expenses function that we wrote down here. And that just went through and kind of made sure that there was actually data in there. They weren't blank. The amount wasn't below 0, things like that. Excuse me. And then we went ahead and added the expense to our expenses array, which we will use to display the expenses. And we passed in our different values to the add expense, which was here, which we got that last ID by looking at the last element of the array, the ID on it, and then added one to it here in our expense object, which we then added to our expenses array. So a lot of stuff, a lot of cool stuff. Cool. So now this add expenses array that we called right here, right? So this is our submit event listener. So after we have it in the array, we need to then display it on the screen. So we're going to write a new function. This function is actually going to create those table rows. Excuse me. Man, my throat. Okay. We're going to call this function render expenses. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just put it up here so I won't forget to actually call it expenses. Okay. And I'm going to go down to our helper function section. I'm going to close these guys up and going to add it down here. So this will be our render expenses on page. So we'll define it, function render expenses. Oops, expenses. Okay, so we'll have that there. Cool. So what this is going to do is we're going to look at our table that we have down here. So right here on our table body, we have this ID, expense table body. And all it has right now currently is just this table row that says no expenses yet, right? So if we look at our page, just no expenses yet. So we're basically going to take this, and this is our anchor point, right? Our ID where we're going to display our stuff. And we're going to replace this with our actual rows. We're going to build them in JavaScript and put them here. Okay. So we need to actually get a hold of this table body, which we can do by the ID, right? So we'll go ahead and do that. Just make some room. And we'll just say const t body equals document dot query selector. Hopefully you're starting to see a pattern here. And we're going to use ID of expense body. So that should get us that element. I'm going to let the dog in, be right back. Okay. So that'll get us the element just like we did before with the other values or the other elements. We are going to want to get rid of that HTML right in there. No expenses yet. Like we don't want to see that anymore once we actually start putting expenses in there. So we can just do tbody dot inner HTML equals empty string. So you may remember that we used inner text before to change the text um, within an element. This time we're going to use inner HTML because we want to actually get rid of this whole body because we're going to replace the whole body with our lists or our list. Okay, so that's why we're breaking the inner HTML blank. Now you can change the inner HTML of elements if you want to with this. So we could literally go in here and like write HTML. So we could do like div, blah, 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 like all sorts of stuff. But in this case, we just want to make it blank. Okay. So we can actually test this right now and make sure it works because as we know before, we had no expense yet in there. But now that we're removing it, it should be blank whenever if we're calling this function, which we are calling this function up here. So when we hit the add button, it should just clear out the table. So let's give that a go and see if it works. And it didn't. Cannot set property of null setting inner HTML. So looks like I bet I have a typo. Expense body. Oh, yep. So it's expense T body. I had a typo in there. So yeah, that ID for that expense T body is what it was. Okay. Gotta make sure we got the right ID name there. Okay. So now taco 1.2.0. So there we go. So we see it cleared out that table at the bottom when we hit that add expense. Okay. Obviously, that doesn't really do us a whole lot of good because we want it not to clear, we want it to actually show our stuff. So we did need it to clear so we can get rid of the stuff that was in there before, but now we need to actually add our stuff to it. So back to our function here. After we clear it out, we're going to want to see if there is anything in our expenses list to display, right? So we'll have an if statement, and we will say if our expenses array, expenses dot length, oh, I gotta spell expenses right. Yeah. Dot length is greater than 0. I'm sorry, equals 0. So you want to typically check for the negative side first. Negative might be the wrong word, but the failing side. So if it's 0, then we want to do something special. If it's not, then we want to display everything, right? So if it is 0, then we're going to change the inner HTML tbody dot inner HTML, and we're just going to say we're going to basically create the table row that we cleared out. That's what we're going to do. So it's going to be tr. I'm going to just copy this. I'll put this in Slack so y'all can copy this. Okay. Oh. So make sure to surround it in single quotes because there are double quotes within it. Let me word wrap that. Oh. There you go. Okay, then we're gonna have our else block here. So else, and so this is where we're actually going to display that the expenses. Through expenses and display in table. Really in build table. Build table. Okay, so now we're going to talk about loops. Anytime you have a list or something that you need to go through a bunch of times, you're going to use a loop. There's a couple different kinds of loops. We're going to use a for loop for this. There's also while loops, which a while loop will continue to loop while something is true. So we can think about a game. So if you're building like a something with a game loop, so like there's a dragon game I built. Basically the loop is going to continue while the person like has their hit points above 0, right? But once their hit points go to 0, then they're going to die. So then it'll come out of the loop. It'll say basically like, just for an example, so you can do while HP is greater than 0. And so you would have an HP variable and we'll set it equal to 100. And then so while the person is playing the game, this would go, let's say they get hit by the dragon, so their HP got reduced by 10, right? And so this while loop will keep going and keep going. And so every time, like, let's say keep getting hit, they're going to keep getting hit until this becomes less than 0. And then it will come out of the while loop. Okay. I think outside of like game development, I haven't ever used a while loop in like regular website kind of stuff. You're definitely a for loop is much more common. So for loop looks like this. This is a for loop. You have three things you can take into a for loop. So I'll write it out and then I'll kind of explain it. I'll paste it out. Do the thing. Okay. So what a for loop does, it takes in three things. It takes your starting position of your array, and then it takes the condition in which it will loop, and then it takes an iterator, which is just how many steps basically it'll take with each loop. So this is going to start. So with our expenses array, if we have, did I get rid of it? So we have each of our objects, right, is in its own index. So each time, so if we're starting at index of 0, that's the first index of the array, right? So let me write it out here again so we can see it. That's expenses. Well, okay, so it's going to be an array, right, of objects that look like this. Okay, so we're going to start at position 0. So the very first thing we're going to see in this loop is this guy, right? So our first element. And then we're going to keep going until the index position is less than the expense. Wait. We're going to keep going as long as the index position is less than expense dot length. So as long as this is true. So the first iteration of the array, I is going to equal 0, right? So if we just console log I. So that's talking about this guy right here, right? This is our index. This doesn't have to be I. This could be index. This could be J. This could be whatever you want it to be. But this is the number each time we're going through the array, the index number, okay? And then we're going to keep going as long as I is less than expenses.length, which we see here, expenses.length, right, is 3, because we have 3 items, okay? And then each iteration is going to add 1 to I. So if you do I++, that's the same thing as doing I plus 1. You can do this. You could do I plus 2. You could do I minus minus. Like say you were start at the end of the array and go backwards. Most common is I++ just because you're just going through it one at a time. But there are different options for that. So if we just console log through this, let me comment this out. Then we should see our I go 0, 1, 2, right? So let's see. Just make sure we don't have any errors. I don't think we have any errors. Okay. So, nope. So if we run this through here and add, okay, so you can see right here that it went 0, 1, right? Because our array only has 2 in it. So that's I position 1, so that's the first iteration of the loop, and then I1 is the second iteration of the loop. Okay. Does that make sense? Sort of kind of. Okay. I don't think you've done loops with your homework yet, but I think maybe next week it will be. Okay. So why do we want to do this? Because we want to go through our expenses and each time create that table row that we're going to see. So that way we can do all of them instead of like last week we had 4 things, but we had to manually do like all 4. This way we can just put them in, go through the array, put them in. Cool. Okay. So let's get rid of this. There are a couple other types of loops as well, but they're pretty rare. 4 is going to be the one you're going to use most often. And there's other ways of using it that we'll get into, but this is the most common way, and it's just fine to use this way. Okay. So what I like to do when I'm going through an array like this is, so my I at position 0 is going to be this guy, right? So we want to get that. So I'm going to make a temporary variable or a variable within this 4 called expense. And I'm going to set it equal to expenses at position I. Okay. So what this is going to do is each time we iterate, this variable here will update with the current expense for the for loop. Okay. Because expense at position I, so first time it's going to be expense at position 0, so this guy. And then second time expense at position 1, this guy. And then so on for however many we have. Okay. So expense at position I is going to be an expense. You could just use expense at position I like throughout, but it makes more sense to me to like have the we'll call this like current expense. Okay. So that way we know, okay, this is the one for this current iteration, right? Cool. So now we're going to do something neat. We're actually going to create HTML in JavaScript, which is pretty cool. We've messed with it. We've messed with the inner HTML. We've messed with the inner text and things, but we haven't actually created like brand new HTML from JavaScript. So we're going to do that now. So first thing we're going to do, it's similar to how we've done the rest of the HTML. We are going to create a variable. There's going to be a table row, and we're going to do document dot, instead of getting anything or querying anything, we're going to create. So we're going to create an element. And the element we want to create, we just have to pass it that HTML element name. So in this case, it's table row. So it's just TR. Okay. So that is going to create a table row. It's not going to put it anywhere yet because we haven't told it where to put it, but it's going to create that element. Okay. All right, so once we have that table row created, we can then start building it with all the data that we want to put inside of it. So we can say tr, which is this table row element we just created, dot inner HTML equals. So we're actually going to set this inner HTML. We're going to do a backtick and an enter. Do a couple enters. So inside of here is where we're going to create the actual HTML to go inside the table row. So if you look at our index real quick, you can see that a table row, well, that was a weird one. It can have a table header and it can have table data. So if you remember on the left here, this is the, like right in here would be the table head, the TH for this row. So the 1, 2, 3 or whatever. And then each of these is a TD or table data. Okay. So that's what we're going to create. So right here, like we could have a TH here with this guy, but there's no point because it just has no expenses. So we'll do a table head and a table data. Okay. So we're going to make a TH, which is our table head. And we're going to give it a scope of row. Scope of row. And then we're going to close it. TH. Okay. So in between these guys, this is where our ID is going to go, right? So this will be so all the data is going to come from our current expense, right? Because this is that row we're making is for that current expense. So index position 0 in this case, but it'll keep going. So we're going to do our $ curly brackets so that we can use some actual variables in here. And we're going to like that. Okay, we're going to do current expense dot ID, right? Because this is going to match this guy here. Okay, so once we have that, then we're going to do a TD. So we're going to start building out our table data. And I always just like to close it immediately when I open it, just so I don't forget. And then in between, we're going to do, again, $ curly brackets. And then this will be our date, I believe. Yep, our date comes next. So we'll do our date. So we're going to do expense or current expense dot date. And oh, we did I not add date? I thought we added date. Oh, we did add date. Hold on. Add expense date. Okay, cool. So we do have date. Just didn't put it in my little cheat sheet. Okay, back over here. Sorry. Okay, so current date will be this one. And then we're just going to keep going along, putting in the rest of our data. So TD. Stop. TD. This will be our description. Maybe like that. And then our category, current expense, that category. And our amount. Okay, y'all got that? Cool. Okay, so now we've created the table row, but we haven't put it anywhere, right? So this is not going to show up in our HTML right now because we haven't told it where to go. We've just created it. So we have this really cool table row element that's just kind of hanging out in limbo. So now we actually need to put it somewhere. So to do it, in order to do that, we need to tell it where we want it to go and then how we want it to get there, kind of. So we know that we want it to be on our table body because this is the element we just made in order to keep it there, right? And this is coming from our expense T body. So this guy right here, this is going to be the parent that we're going to attach it to or append it to. Okay. So what we can say is we can say T body dot append child TR. Okay. TR being this element we made here, and we're appending it to the table body we made up here. Okay. And so this is what actually puts it on the page. Okay. So now maybe we can see it on here. Hey, look at there. We got stuff on our table. Add another one, burrito. Like that. Rocking and rolling now. Gas. Now we're cooking. Let me know when y'all got that working.
All of mine are working except the amount has got it's like I've got some got the TD amount in there too for some reason. It's like it's pulled in that data as well.
Like the TD tag.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you are your curly brackets in the right spot?
Well, I mean, that's always a question. God only knows, honestly. I have no idea. Um, it looks like it is the same as yours. I'm not seeing like any obvious goof there.
Okay. You want to go ahead and share? We'll look at it.
Yeah, might as well. Okay.
Oh, your TD tag on line 100 is you got a backwards bracket on the very front. So
Oh,
you're
for heaven's sake. Okay. Jeez. Thank you.
uh I'm good at finding those mistakes because I've made them all. Wayne and Elizabeth, y'all's good. Very nice.
Sorry, I was hunting for a missing curly bracket to
Ah.
close it. So
Gotcha. No worries. Cool. So to me, this is exciting, right? Like we are actually putting data in and functionalities popping. We got things happening. Like this is what it's about. So you should celebrate, you know. Um, but I mean, honestly, like so if you go from HTML, CSS, right, you have a basic website that just kind of sits there. People can come and look at your pictures or whatever, but they can come and actually do stuff on your site. It takes it up a whole new level. It's awesome. Um, and like I was saying before, events, there's so many different events. Like the on change event, like as I type into this, like that event is firing. So we could capture that and you can do all sorts of stuff with that. It's typically used more on like a select maybe to trigger something. But I mean, you could literally say like on change every letter, like have an alert pop up or change the background color. Um, that might be a fun one to do actually. Uh, so many
I have
things.
a
Oh
question.
yeah, yeah,
Our totals aren't updating to be reflective of the total of expenses.
yep, exactly. We
How do
haven't
we
done it.
fix that?
Let's,
Okay, just
let's
making
do it.
sure.
No, let's do it. How do we fix it? You tell me.
Way to put me in the hot seat.
I mean,
Let's see. Um,
so let's talk through it. So when we hit add expense, we're gonna add the expense, right? And so at that point, it's gonna add that new expense, and then we're gonna want to total it then, right? Like as the add expense happens.
right.
So okay, so in our four here, we're adding that new expense, or we're adding that new, yeah, we're adding the new expense to the page. So if we go Well, let me hold on. Let me explain one thing real quick. Um, every single time the page loads, it recreates all of these. I don't know if I made that specific. Um, so you don't see it happening, but that's what's happening in the code. So within the for loop, um, I don't think, yeah, you wouldn't want to do the total there. You would want to do the total after that occurs. So down here somewhere. So you're going to want to get the total right, the actual number, and then you're going to want to grab the place it's going to display on the page and then put it there. So we can pseudocode it out. We can say get total, and then display total on page. So how are we going to get the total?
Are we gonna have to do another similar to the function at expense, but it would be like a sum?
Yeah, we could do it that way. Trying to find my.
If that's totally off base, feel free to just be
No.
like, no, because my brain is mush after this week.
No, you're good. Yep. Yeah, so basically we're gonna have to look at, so we have the array of expenses. We're gonna need to go through it, grab each of the amounts, add them all together, right? So it's gonna be very similar to what we did here with this element or the table rows, but we don't need to make a bunch of rows. We just need to get those numbers and add them up. So sounds to me like we need a new function. So we can probably just here add let's just call it get total function. And then we can put it down in our we're in our helpers. We can put it down here. So make a new function, get total. Done. And then this will take in our expenses, right? So, but since expenses is global, we don't really have to pass it in. We can just already have it. And we're going to want to loop through there and add up all the expenses. So we can start with our sum of 0, right? So we have something to add to. And then we'll have a for loop. I cheated on that one. So in this for loop, we're gonna start at index of 0, and then we're going to go as long as index is less than our array. In this case, is going to be our expenses, right? So we can put expenses there. So this is our array with all our expenses in it. And then we're doing the same thing, index plus plus. So like I was saying on the other one, you can use I, you can use index, you can use whatever makes sense. And then each element is going to be expenses at that position of index, right? So this is the same as the for loop we did before, just we're using, we're not going to be looking for the date, description, category. We just need the amount, right? So where it's element, we can just put current expense here. And then just for funsies, we could do console.log current expense at position index dot amount. So we'll put current expense amount. So remember, as we're looping through here, each one of these objects is at the index position. So this is index position 0, and then 1 and 2, and then it has the amount keyword in it. So that's what that dot amount is for. So we'll get back however much that is. Okay. And so once we're getting the amount back, then we just want to add that amount to our sum, right? So we can do sum. There's two ways you can do this. You can do sum equals sum plus current expense at position index dot amount. Okay, or you can do sum both sum plus equals current expense at index dot amount. Okay, we don't want to do both of these, obviously, but these are the same thing. So by doing the plus equals, it's shorthand for saying we're gonna be taking whatever the current sum is and then adding the amount to it. Okay, because each loop, obviously the sum is increasing, right? So I'm gonna comment out that top one, just use this one. Cool. So once it goes through and adds up all those sums, then we just want to return that back to where we're calling this at. Okay, so that'll return back up to right here, which actually we may not need to return it. Oh, yes, because we need to get the total. So we want to have a variable here, const total. So this way we can then display this here. Okay. Does the get total function make sense? Cool. And it makes sense how we're getting the amount with the current index and all that. Cool. Okay, so if we go back here and we just add some real quick. Oh, okay, cannot read amount in our get total. Let's see. Let's see, 130. Index, but I have a typo. Expenses. Expenses.
So my Zoom
What's that?
keeps kicking me out.
Zoom keeps kicking you out.
Yeah, I reinstated. I tested my speed and
You're very much breaking up. I can barely hear you.
it's messing it up. So
Yeah,
I'm probably going to be troubleshooting.
okay. Okay. Let's see. So current expense dot amount is not happy about. Undefined. What does not have an amount? Is it because it's a string? Let's see. So it's undefined. Amount. Are y'all getting the same error I'm getting?
I'm not getting, I think I'm missing a line somewhere. I've got the function thing, but I think I'm missing a line where you're defined maybe a constant. Um,
So I did here on
there we
total,
go. That's
but
what I'm
I'm not,
missing.
but that's not doing anything yet.
Oh, okay, okay.
So for some reason in here, I'm getting undefined for my current expense. Let me see. Expenses array. Amount. Let's see. Okay, so index is 0, expenses. So if I just did, oh, that's why. Okay, yeah. So what I'm doing, which doesn't make sense, I'm trying to get the index value of current expense, right? Current expense is just the object. Expenses is the array, right? So expenses is where I get the index from. Current expense, I just need to look at the current expense itself, which is going to be the object. So I can get dot amount from that. Okay. So I'll put dot amount. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. This will be dot amount. Okay, so expenses array is the array, right? And it has the object in it. Current expense is just this object, right? Which has amount in it. So I don't need to look at an object index value because objects don't have index values. Objects just have key value pairs. Okay. So basically, I was trying to use current expense like an array instead of the object that it is. That make sense? Kind of, sort of. Okay. So in order to access amount from the current expense from this object, I just say dot amount. I don't need to find, there's no index position to find. And so you can see here, it gives us the amount back that we want. Oops. So that's what's happening there. So expenses, again, is the array. We are looking for, this gets us the current expense. So that current object right here, it's current object. And then we're getting that actual amount from that current object. So amount right there. Okay. So cool. So we're returning our sum, which is going to go here. And then we can console log our total. We can see what our total is. And then we add some here. Oop. Our total is 0.125. Interesting. Burrito. It is 250. Okay, so our total's weird, right? Like that's not what we want to see. So I wonder why it's doing that. I'll give you a hint. That's your hint.
We need to do the two fixed value to make sure that it formats the two decimal places only, like the original when we were formatting the prices.
Mhm.
So that would be the, I don't know what the leading element's going to be for like The total, would it be total element?
So, yes, kind of. So we will do that, but first thing we got to do is figure out why they're not adding up properly,
Okay.
right? And it's because they're strings. So if you see here, amount is string. Anytime you submit a form, the data is passed as strings. That's even if it's a number here, like on the front, this side of it, it's going to be passed as a string. And so when you get a number back, you got to make sure it becomes a number in order to do uh, your math to it. So what we want to do then when we get the amount here is make sure that the amount is a number. So we can do uh, is it dot two? Nope. Two float? Nope. I forgot what the thing is called. Two. Nope. Number. Um, all right, I'm gonna ask old Claude here which method we should use. Oh, parse float. Yeah, not two, parse float. Okay. And it's a float because it has a decimal point in it, right? So parse float number. Okay. So this should take our string number, turn it into a decimal number, and then do the addition to it. Okay, so now it's purple, so it's a number. That's good. Let's see if it works. Okay, that looks a lot better, right? I wonder, so like you were saying, Elizabeth, if we give it something funky like that. Let's see. Pizza. We may actually already have it. So please enter a valid value. The two nearest valid values are 2.5 inputs. Okay, so our input, we already have a validation on it that kind of makes it so we don't have to do that two fixed. So if we look at it here, so we have it inputted as step of 0.01. And so that means that I need to explain that. So that's how much it can go up and down, right? So it can't go 0.001 up. It has to go in increments of 0.01, so of pennies, basically. So with that, it would never have any more than two decimal places. If that makes sense. So if this was like a whole number, if the minimum was 1 and we put step of 10, then it would go like 10, 11, 21, 31. That's how it would increase and decrease. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Um, yeah, so that should handle the two fixed business for us, but we could always put that on just to make sure. Definitely not a problem there. Okay, cool. So, yeah, so now we're making it a number or a float, and it is adding correctly. So that's good. So now we see it in our console. Now we need to actually get it on our page. So how are we going to do that?
Is it going to be the const total element equals like document?
Mhm. Keep going.
Will be the query selector
Okay.
and then the hashtag total.
That's coming from the HTML.
Um,
Yeah, right here.
Yep.
Okay. So that'll get us the element. Then what do we got to do?
The total element dot text content equals total colon, it's the money sign total dot to fixed, or you could use parse. I'm not sure. Parse still is not quite solidified in my brain yet, so I'm hesitant to give that
Okay.
example.
Okay. Um, so we can do. We just did that. Like that. That should work, I think. Let's see. Oh, dollar sign. That's what I'm missing. Cool. Yeah, that'll work. Um, yeah, so you could definitely do the to fixed on there if we needed to. Um, there's nothing to parse because we already parsed it down here. So it's already a number, so we're good there. Yeah. So text content, definitely good choice. You could also use inner text. Um, and then if you wanted it to be something specific in the HTML, you could use inner HTML like we did above. Yeah, that works. Okay. Is everybody's working as expected? Bueno. Okay. The one thing I did mention earlier that it's not doing that we should handle is clearing, right? So it's still got the past data in it. And this is the most confusing part of everything. You'll never get it. Don't worry. Nope, that's not it. That was sarcasm, by the way. This should work. I hope this works. Let's see. And, where's my form? Render. And reset. Yep. Okay. That should work. Let's see if it works. Bam. Reset. So that's a nice little built-in method for us on the form is that it just resets for us. I did not know this was a thing for the longest time, and so I would manually go in and get element by ID and change the inner text to, you know, an empty string or whatever it was for every single element on a form. And I mean, it's good practice, but use what exists, you know.
Does it matter where exactly you put that in your code?
You're gonna want it after all your, it's gonna be in your render expenses function
Okay.
at the very bottom.
Okay.
Because
Thank you.
yeah, you definitely don't want it to reset before you get it all added up and everything.
Okay. After that function at the very bottom.
Inside the render express.
Inside.
Yeah,
Okay.
but at the very bottom, yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. I'll be right back. Okay. How's everybody feeling?
I think I'm gonna have to just rewatch it.
Yeah. Sorry about your Zoom. That sucks.
Yeah.
Technology. Psh.
But I got up to the everything but total.
Okay, that's good. Okay, let's see. Let's see if that was everything. Um, one thing we will go over next week. So if you think about this, if you're like if you had this on your computer or whatever, um, and you put all these expenses in, and then you refresh the page, they all disappear, right? So that'd be kind of an annoying expense tracker. So we'll talk about local storage, which is storage that you can actually just keep in your browser, so you can come back to the page and it's still there. Which is how like um uh similar to how pages store like your login information and things like that. It's used for other like tracking purposes and things, but we'll get into that more next week. Um, I did want to, just for fun, let's write a function that will change the background color with every letter change, just because it's fun. So if we want to do that, what could we do? So let's say there's going to be an event, right? There's going to be an on-change event that occurs in this input, right? So this input is for description. So in the input, we're going to create an on change. Okay. So we can just say on change. And then we can, let me think about the best way to do this. All right, 1 second. Okay. That's what I thought. Cool. So we can handle change. Let's do handle change though. Okay. Okay. So there's two different ways we can handle this. We can have the event listener like we had before with the submit. It just would be a change event instead. And we'll do that in a second. Or you can actually call functions directly from your HTML. So if we had this on change in this input, then we could call a function right here. So let's say we had a function called handle change, and we would pass an event to it. So we could actually call this directly from our HTML. And then inside of our JavaScript, we could have, just gonna put at the bottom here, we can have a handle change function, which I gotta put function handle change. And so then we're taking in an event. We can console log that event. Just gonna put handle change event. Event. Okay. So if I have that, then whenever there's a change to this input, it should fire off this function. Okay. So, but it's not. Why is it not? Oh, there we go. Okay. I don't know why it took forever to do it though. Interesting. Oh, okay. So it's not doing it on the text input. It's doing it whenever you click out of the field, which is technically on blur. So I don't know why it's doing it there. But um, so that is one way you can do it though. The other way is with the add event listener. So if we instead get rid of this and we just have create a new event listener like so. So we can do document dot get element by ID, and the ID on that is description. So we can say description. Oh, in our parentheses. And then we can add event listener on there, dot add event listener. And here we'd be listening for the change event. And we'll have our function with our event in our curly brackets. And then we can console.log event. Okay. So this should listen for the event and fire off that console log. Let's see. Okay, so same thing. Two ways to accomplish the same thing. So let me see. Okay. So the on change fires when you click out of it. That's how it's designed to do, apparently. If we wanted to get every click, that would be an input change. So we could change this to be input instead of change here. And that should give us on every keystroke. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So if we wanted to do something cool on every keystroke, we could say document, let's do let body or const, I guess. Yeah, const body equals document dot get element by tag name. Oh, one. Let's see if the body has an ID. We'll give the body an ID. ID equals body. 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 Okay. So get element by ID, body, so just body. And then we could do body dot style dot background color equals we'll say red. So when we hit the button, it should go red. Or if we hit a thing. Okay, so change the background color, right? It's not going to do anything else because we only did it one time. But this is just an example kind of how you can grab some events and you can grab different elements and kind of make things happen based on the events. It's pretty cool. Really dealing with the data is much more common because, unless you're making some kind of wild, crazy design thing via JavaScript, you probably wouldn't do this. But it's pretty fun to do. What we could do though is we could make random colors appear. So that would be fun. So if instead of just red, let's say we wanted to have a function, let's call it assign random colors. So we could, we'll have a color variable and we want to get, so let's say we have three colors. Let's say we have three colors and we want to randomly pick between the three. Okay. So let's make colors, let's say const colors array, and we'll say red green, green, blue. And so then we want to get a random color. So if you remember math.random gives us a random color. So let's have or random number rather. Random number equals so math.random. So random, because it gives us a random color between 0 and 1, which doesn't do us a whole lot of good. We want between 0 and 2, right, for our array. So I think we can put 0 to 3. I think it's inclusive. We'll see. We'll see if that works. So it's console.log random number. Okay, and then if that works, then we want our color to be whatever index from this colors array that random number is, right? So we could say color equals colors array at index of random number, right? Does that make sense? Cool. Okay. So then our background color would be this color, right? So we would call this variable, well, we need to return the color. So return color. And this would be assign random colors. Okay, so now will this work? I have no idea, but it's going to be fun to find out. Okay, so our random number is still giving us a decimal. So we can use, let's see what it does on the next one. So 0.3, 0.9, 0.4. Let's see, how can we have it? Let's see, how can we get 0, 1, or 2 from math.random? Oh, okay, you gotta multiply it. Okay. That's one word. Okay, so if we do math.random times 3, so it's going to take that decimal that it finds between 0 and 1 and multiply it by 3. So if this was like, say it found 0.5, so then it would be 3.5, and then we would just round that down to 3. So this is how we're going to get a number between 0 and 2 for our array there. Cool. So let's see. Oh, working. So you can see our random number is 1, then it's 0, then it's 2. And so each of those is the index place for our colors array.
I have one question.
Yeah.
So okay, so on the line 63, 163 rather, how come it's times 3 rather than times 2? So, unless is that like the full amount of things rather than the index value?
This 3 here?
Hmm.
Yeah, so this 3 is what it has nothing to do with the index.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Math.random is going to give us a number between 0 and 1.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah. So it's a decimal. So if it gives us like 0.5 and then we multiply it by 3, so we'd have 3.5, right?
Okay.
And then we're going to round that down with math.floor to be 3.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's like two different things are kind of going on here.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Gotcha.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, we'll go over it again. So this is just we're creating the array of the colors that we want, and then we're creating the random number so that we can then use that in the array to get that color. So yeah, these are two different things that then come together right there. Cool. Yep. And so here, I'll go over this again. We're getting that element by ID description. So then we can add this event listener to it. In this case, we're doing the input. And then we're using this, which is called a callback function. So as soon as we get that event, we're then going to trigger this function inside of it. Something else you can do, if this is funky looking and a little scary, you can just have this as its own function. So we could have down here, let's say function color change. Oops. And this will take in an event. And we could just take this stuff out of here and put it in this function. And then we can call color change right here, pass the event to it. So this is the same thing. We're just defining it as a separate function, so we can then call it within here. I don't know why it doesn't like event, but should have the same outcome. Let's see. Oh, that's fun. Okay. Oh, so it's not calling it on the event now, it's calling it on the deal. Let's see. Hmm. Event isn't deprecated. Why? Interesting. Okay, so let's figure out why that didn't work. Ah, okay. So if you are going to call it this way, you actually don't use your parentheses, because what that does is that calls it immediately and it's not waiting for the event to occur. So you would actually just use the name of the function instead of having the parentheses with it. So a little caveat there. Let's see if that works now. Cool. Yeah, that works. So either way, you can use the inline function or do it this way. Does the same kind of thing. Yeah. All right. There's some brain stuff for you there. Questions about any of that? Anything we want to go over again? All good. Okay. I recommend trying to stay organized with this, because obviously if you just look at this, it's kind of a mess of junk. So definitely use some comments to so you know kind of where you are and what you're doing. You can separate it into sections like helper function and stuff like that. Remember that it doesn't matter where the functions are, because it's going to hoist them so they can uh, be activated anywhere, as long as they're in the right scope. Um, yeah, we'll do a lot more loops. Again, I think loops are in your homework coming up. What else? Let's see. We did some validations, which is good. Cool. So, yeah, the next step, because we're actually getting the expenses in here. We're gonna add a filter category or a category filter. So our table will show like if we click like just transport, then it'll just show like the transport ones. It won't be here. It'll be its own little section, but that'll be something coming up. We're gonna do the local storage, so that way if you leave the browser and come back, you can still see your stuff. What else are we gonna do? Expenses. Is there anything else that y'all want to add on here that I don't have? That might be neat. You can think about it.
One idea for it.
Mhm.
Could we get a way to like filter, kind of like you can on Excel? Like maybe want to filter it by category. Just look at
Mhm.
food, just look at travel or transportation.
Yep. Yeah, we can do that.
Cool.
Oh, what's my total? Maybe I do need a two fixed. Looks like my total's wrong. Let's see. Total two fixed. Two. Okay, there you go. So Elizabeth, you're right. The whole time. We needed two fixed. So, oh, we need it here too on our amount. Look at that. What the heck? Amount. But this will give an error. Let's see. Yep. You know why I gave an error? Yep. So yeah, same deal. This is a string currently, right? So we'll have to parse float and then two fixed. I think that'll get us there. There we go. Oh, we could add a dollar sign there too. Dollar sign. There we go. Beautiful. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. We'll do the filter thing next week. And we'll go into storage and stuff like that. And yeah, we're moving along pretty good. Um, we're not supposed to get into databases till module 3, but I mean, if we keep tracking along pretty good, we might throw a little something in there on week 4. Okay, I'll put the homework out. We got 5 minutes still, so if y'all have anything, you want me to go over anything again, anything still confusing, we can definitely go over it now. If not, we can all go get sunburns because it's like 97 out.
Are you going to put the coding from today, all the changes we've made today in Slack so that we can make sure that we have it organized for next week?
Yep, I'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Let's see. Derek, you got any nuggets to throw in at the end here?
Um, Currently I do not.
Info. Okay. Well, if y'all got nothing else, then we can cut it early today.
Have a great weekend. Enjoy the sun.
Y'all too. See you later.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.